Now speaker on issues such as poverty, women empowerment, literacy, and human genital cutting. She has received countless awards in celebration of her work, such as the Print Journalism Award from the Victor Peace Award Educational Fund and the Female Entrepreneur of the Year Award from the Liberian Image Award. Angela serves on the board of directors of the National Association of Women Business Owners and is president on the advisory board of the Tiger Lily Foundation, which is one of the most amazing foundations that fights cancer. A fan of that foundation. She is also a war survivor with a great and inspirational story to tell. And unfortunately, a lot of us Africans are in the diaspora because of the war that we face in our respective countries. Please help me welcome Angela Makoni to the stage. Betty Makoni, who is so rightfully deserving of this honor and award tonight. I am not embarrassed to admit that when I first read Ms. Makoni's biography, I read it through teary eyes. To read about a woman whose innocence was snatched away from her at 6 years old, and as though she had not endured enough, 3 years later, she watched her father beat her mother to death. But she overcame the worst hurdles in her life by turning negative into positive. She did not give up. Instead, she continued to strive for an education to position herself to help educate other girls. Betty knew that she was able to make a difference in other girls' lives if only she persevered. Betty had a dream and a vision on which she remained focused. Just think, had she given up and succumbed to the poverty and abuse in her environment, we would not be honoring her tonight. I easily relate to what happened to young Betty Makoni's mother because my own late sister, Rose, lost her life at the hands of her husband, abusive husband, many years ago. It left me with zero tolerance for domestic violence, and I knew at the time that there was a need for women to be empowered and prepare themselves so that they will no longer be the victims, but the victors. Betty represents my sister Rose, her own mother, and all of those women and girls that perished at the hands of abusive men. She represents the thousands of girls who did not survive the practice of female genital mutilation. She represents all of the women who have been victims of gender-based violence. Betty's dream and vision began in a classroom in her native Zimbabwe with only 10 students, and it has grown into a global network with branches in Sierra Leone, South Africa, the United States, Uganda, and the United even more places like Swaziland. However, she does not intend to stop there. She plans to continue to spread her Girl Child network to all parts of the world. The recipient of the renowned CNN Heroes Award, Betty Makoni, has proven that when a woman sets out to help others, the help is returned to her. We should all pattern our lives after Betty by reaching back and extending a hand to help another woman up the ladder when we arrive to the top of it. Too few women remember that they too were once at the bottom of the ladder, and someone might have reached back and extended a hand to them. My fellow ladies, Betty Makoni remembered where she was in her life prior to her education. She remembered the violation and abuse she suffered. She remembered losing her mother at 9 years old. She remembered to reach back and help those girls that needed an encouraging word or the motivation and inspiration to help advance their own lives. Betty made a difference in the lives of those girls and continues to do so. Women have always been leaders in the world. As mothers, most of them ran their households. They raised their children. They engaged in farming, taught schools, and mentored children. With the likes of Harriet Tubman, Eleanor Roosevelt, Indira Gandhi, Hillary Clinton, and so many other women around the world, we must take that step toward leadership. Today, we have 2 elected female presidents on the continent of Africa. We're getting there. We are empowered, but most of us don't realize how empowered we are. Physically, men are always generally the stronger gender, but women are much stronger at heart and will. When people express how calm I am, when everyone else around me is stressing, I tell them that I am a survivor of one of the bloodiest coup d'etats in Africa's history. So what is a little stress? We African women are raised to develop a certain strength that keeps us standing when others are falling. But what are we going to do with that special strength? We should take that strength and extend it to the next generation of women. When I first established Global Woman, I told my family that there were too few women in the world that cared about what happens to other women and how they fare. Tonight, I stand here proud to say that women are no longer willing to sit quietly while their sisters around the world are violated, abused, traded, mutilated, and prevented from pursuing an education. With such organizations as Afrikan Goddess, Tiger Lily, Girl Child Network, and Global Woman, women have a newfound liberation. Women must no longer assume that because the abuse is not happening to us, it is not our concern. We must not assume the attitude that it is something that only happens in indigent neighborhoods or in Haiti, Africa, Asia, the Middle East. Any time a woman is violated or a little girl is mutilated, it is indeed our concern. It is our concern when a 6-year-old girl is raped. It is our concern that 8,000 little girls are genitally mutilated every day in the world. And it is our concern that most of the victims of human trafficking are women and girls. When I pick up the newspaper and read that girls are poisoned in Afghanistan to prevent them from attending school, indeed, that is our concern. I recall tuning into the evening news once and learned that a West African father in Atlanta, Georgia, had been arrested for taking a pair of unsterilized scissors and clipping off his 3-year-old daughter's clitoris. It was only when she fell into convulsions and from excessive hemorrhaging that he rushed her to the emergency. These are not isolated cases occurring in a faraway land. These are abuses that are happening right in our backyards. But regardless of whether women and girls are being abused next door or across the ocean, we should be moved to take action. It was only a few years ago when the leader of Afghanistan passed a law that men had the legal right to force sexual intercourse from their wives, even if the women did not feel well or didn't feel like engaging in the act. Those should be the concerns of every woman in the world. I appeal to each of you tonight to please think about how you can make a difference in someone else's life and take that action. I call on fellow journalists and writers to take action by writing stories that will inform and educate women. I call on teachers to mentor girls and set examples for them, like tonight's honoring Betty is doing. Render a kind word of advice to a young lady, which just might prevent teenage pregnancy. We cannot save the world, granted, but if each of us make a difference in one person's life, we would have made